The Surfing Violinist presents Beyond Bollywood, New Course, Part 3, Masala Vlog 27. I'm taking these first 6 vlogs of 2023 to chart a new course for our family and channel to take in the next few years. Normally we focus on food, but our relationship with India extends beyond food, and the course we're charting is to serve the Indian community here, in our hometown, and back in India with a video series that is engaging and fun. And this series will hopefully be useful for any Westerners or Indophiles around the world who want to learn more about India in a way that is less contrived and less patronizing. So what we're planning on doing is making a monthly dinner, movie, and music event in which we pair our food courses with movies, music, and maybe some other fun stuff. In this month and next month's vlog, I want to focus on what movies we will be featuring, and we'll start off with a category of film that has been dear to me since before we landed in India, independent film. I still consider myself an inspiring independent filmmaker. You can see my first crack at narrative short film with Cheklist linked in the description below. And when I was in India, I tried to make a film called Bharat's Chai Stand, which Jamie Alter was even gracious enough to do a test scene and give feedback. So my love of independent film is not just as an armchair critic, but an armchair critic with a dream. And India's indie cinema extends beyond what we would call just independent, with what has been termed parallel cinema. Entire industries, in fact, in all of India's languages that in many ways aren't even independent. They are blockbuster forces on the global stage when you look at their profitability. I have only now dipped my toe into many of these industries and indies outside of Bollywood's main label, but today I want to feature 5 films that have affected me deeply in the last 20 years and will most likely be featured in our upcoming dinner and movie events. These films will also serve as guideposts as we chart this new course. So without further ado, and in no particular order, Beyond Bollywood, 5 movies of note. Jali Kaattu. Special thanks to longtime channel fan and creative wonder Akash for this recommendation. This movie is a masterclass in how to utilize a narrow scope to see beyond. The multiverse movie is all the rage in the current blockbuster scenario, but I'm not convinced that any of these multiverse blockbusters have added much to the conversation. Jali Kaattu, on the other hand, is almost a bottle episode, one event and one setting that you're forced to sit through. 12 angry men, but with an angry water buffalo that escapes slaughter and is on the loose, wreaking havoc. It's very easy for a bottle episode to feel like a bad stage play. It's very easy for a bottle episode to feel like a long, tedious, contrived exposition dump. But Jali Kaattu is fast, dropping clues to its intent with quick cuts, close-ups, and machine gun sound design, and it's all leading to a shocking but inevitable end. At the risk of giving too much away, this is vegetarian propaganda. You could say it's Hindu horror evangelism, and it is fantastic. As a kid growing up in an evangelical Christian environment, we were treated to the scare you out of hell, fire, brimstone sermon every now and then, and they always sucked. But Christianity hasn't always been bad at this. There's a reason Dante's Divine Comedy is a classic. The Inferno is the template for almost all of modern horror, and it is good. And to me, film horror is at its best when it drags its viewers through hell, not to shock and awe them with gore and dread, but, like Dante, to hold a mirror up to the nasty parts of our psyche, hidden beneath hypocrisy, and say, this is you. And I'm dead serious, Jali Kaattu accomplishes this. This is a Hindu divine comedy crammed into a less than 2-hour runtime masterpiece. I've talked about this movie a lot, but I'm going to give it another mention because it has affected me so much. Hola. Hola is another bottle episode in a sense, one man's maddening spiral into professional crisis, all because of one night watchman's whistle. Like the good horror movies I mentioned before, Hola accomplishes that difficult task of holding up a mirror to our flaws, but through the lens of dark comedy. Now, this movie has moments that will drive you nuts because the protagonist can be unbelievably unsympathetic. But I can tell you, seeing it as a foreigner while living in India, while I was complaining about the lack of personal space sometimes India subjects you to, I was immediately aware of how the protagonist was just like me. I was guilty, and the punchline still to this day makes me feel the full weight of the consequences of my fastidious, selfish behavior. Like one of my favorite films of all time, Michael Haneke's Cachet, Hola asks the questions, is nursing a pet peeve really just an innocent self-indulgence? Or is it murder at the worst, or euthanasia at the best? Well, for some it might be a stretch to call this film truly independent or parallel. It is in Hindi and it is attached to Mr. Perfect, Amir Khan, but Peepli Live was one of the first Indian films I saw without song and dance numbers that impacted me in the way that Jali Kaattu and Hola would much later on. It was the first time I saw Nawazuddin Siddiqui on screen, and it was the story surrounding his supporting role that really branded this movie in my mind. It would have been easy for the film's director Anusha Rizvi, as a former journalist, to make a propaganda piece about her profession, but she manages to weave so many nuanced observations about the difficulties that are spawned when society attempts to address a social crisis. She does this with comedy, compassion, and candor. There are no easy answers here, and during the B-plot with Nawazuddin's journalist character, it's the way her camera captures poverty without condescension that has stuck with me ever since. I think this is a masterpiece. I think it deserves to be watched alongside movies like Network and Citizen Kane as edifying artistic explorations of how journalism can go wrong. One of the other reasons I'm excited to do this series is learning more about India's film industries and doing what I do in American movies. I'm always noticing character actors. I'm like, what is that guy in? What is that guy in? And in this case, I did not even ever notice who Raghuveer Yadav was. The fact that he played Budhia here in Pipli Live. I just found out putting the pictures into this video in the edit that I realized, wait a minute, this guy looks really familiar. Well, it turns out he was in Salam Bombay, Mira Nair's film, playing Chilam, the drug addict, and then, more recently, as Pradhanji in Panchayat. I was really blown away by that, and which is fantastic. Me and Melissa watched both seasons, loved it. TVF was killing it with that one. Looking forward to season 3. I've gushed about this movie as well before on my channel, but Hazaro Rekha is one of those movies that has hit me personally at such a level that I don't consider it a genre film, nor foreign film, nor Indian film. It is a work of art that has changed the way I think about cross-cultural communication, the way that movies like The Mission, Caché, The Fall, and Arrival have. Cross-cultural communication is, to me, one of the most fundamental skills necessary for human flourishing, and it's so easy for it to go so wrong. And not just when the cultural differences are stark. Hazaro Rekha demonstrates subcultural tensions that dominate our lives at a more local level. It shows how the best intentions can be thwarted by class, personal temperament, and cultural inertia, even when citizens share language, nationality, and political ambitions. It's a brilliant case study proving that communication between subcultures, occupations, and even sexes is an endeavor requiring just as much painstaking humility as international diplomacy. Anthropology and activism are not enough to steer subcultures into the direction that you think is best for them. It is going to require a total rewiring of your notion of what best even means if you are ever going to be able to communicate with them, let alone help them to change. If, that is, change is something they can even conceptualize wanting. Without this humility, meddling within another subculture can backfire with tragic results. While I have only seen a handful of scenes from Satyajit Ray's Shatranj Ke Khilari, or The Chess Players, all that I have seen has captivated me, and this will be one of the first films we watch in this Beyond Bollywood endeavor. Every culture has a tendency to blame an outside culture as the sole author of its misery. Shatranj Ke Khilari joins my list of movies that show how human corruption subverts the intentions of underdogs and how sometimes the cause of the problem is much closer to home. Movies like Grave of the Fireflies, Gallipoli, Sorcerer, Turtles Can Fly, and Cormac McCarthy joints like No Country for Old Men and The Counselor all have a looming evil threatening our protagonists, but the big twist is the protagonist is the problem. These are films about blind spots or maybe stigmatism, the inability to see what's right under our noses because we're staring at ideals or ideologies, or in this case, imaginary worlds that distract us from the reality at hand. In The Chess Players, the imaginary world is right under our protagonist's noses in the form of chess. As an aging male who spent way too much of the past decade playing League of Legends, I can relate to the temptation. This film features brilliant performances from a Hall of Fame cast including Richard Attenborough, Tom Alter, and Gabbar Singh himself, Amjad Khan. While the movie does show how Indian rulers allowed the Brits to come in and take control of India right out from under their noses because of their decadence and laziness, it's not like Ray is showing these Brits in a rose-colored light. In some ways, Attenborough's character reminds me of Amitabh's character in Mohabbatain, not exactly sympathetic. There's a trite, condescending, almost willful intent to misunderstand the cultures he's supposed to engage with that is all too familiar, and I have been guilty of it more times than I can count, and not just within India. I'm really looking forward to enjoying this film from start to finish, and not just rewatching Tom Alter's poetry recitation over and over. If you can find me another white man who can speak in Hindi or Urdu like this, let me know. Now, not all Indian independent or parallel films are depressing, but these always seem to be the ones I gravitate towards. So we're going to try to expand my own horizons and try all kinds of films. I was gifted a number of films from all over India that I still haven't watched, so we'll be watching these as well. But I do want to emphasize that my interest in Indian independent and parallel cinema does not mean that I hate Bollywood. A friend recommended that Mel and I watch the documentary series on Netflix called The Romantics about Yash Raj films. We did catch up with it. I did have a bit of a YouTube vendetta with Yash Raj because of their very strict copyright policies when I was trying to make trailer parodies or cover their songs, but this series was really well done and got Mel and I excited to watch some Bollywood again. So in the next installment of our new course, we will be giving our reasons why Bollywood still has a place in our hearts and plans for the future of this vlog and this channel, next time on the Masala Vlog. To see these videos early, without ads, join the lineup here on YouTube. You just need a YouTube account, and for $1.99 a month, you click this little join button and sign up to get early and ad-free access to 4 monthly vlogs: the surf vlog, the Masala vlog, the violin vlog, and the family vlog. Thank you very much.